We have a caller on the line. Do you have a question?
Hi, my name's Jason. I had a question for Ian. I just would like to know, how has Band of Brothers changed your life in a personal way? And when was the last time you actually watched the series?
Hey, Jason.
Oh.
I haven't seen it. I don't know when the last time I watched it was. Probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's been a while. I kind of had an experience of watching it vicariously through my fiance. She watched the whole series with her mother, and she was in Toronto and I was in Los Angeles, and she would call me, after I watched another 3 episodes tonight, and it was fun to hear two women get to have such a wonderful experience watching it. I could tell they really loved the experience of it. And it just reminded me, and this was fairly recently, and it just reminded me how in a way it's timeless. And I think it's a combination of the subject matter and the ethics and morality at play. And, I don't maybe like Joseph Campbell's mythology is almost at play. And the fact that it's about this event in modern human history that, we all wonder, what would have happened if the war ended, if the Axis powers were victorious. Some people say, would we all be speaking German? Who knows? But it's such, in some ways, there's something clear about it. I think we all want to get behind something and root for something. And it's so hard now with some of the conflicts we're involved in. It's hard to figure out, it doesn't feel black and white. And
right.
that war felt black and white.
The thing I was really curious about as well is Band of Brothers made me closer to World War II greatly. I did a lot of my own reading and research and documentary watching and such, and I was just curious if being a celebrity, it's obviously going to affect your life in a personal way, just from fans. But was there any kind of draw towards World War II and learning more, just from the whole experience?
Both of my grandfathers were fighter pilots in World War II. One with the Air Force, and he flew with the Flying Tigers and fought over China against the Japanese. And my other grandfather was in the Navy, and he fought in the Pacific. And the experience brought me closer in understanding to my family history and what they were a part of. And I think the value in that is immense. And because of everything that's at play in that war and how much research I was able to do, and I don't know if I would have done that degree of research and learned that much about it. I probably wouldn't have. But to learn that much about it, I find it a fascinating time in history. And I've never really been someone who's, I know people who are like, they love everything about the Roman Empire and they know everything about it, or the Greeks, or the Byzantine era, and I've never had that interest in things long past. But World War II is a particularly fascinating time that I'm really glad I got to learn about. And so, how has it touched my life? I'm happy to be a part of something that deals with the nature of war and conflict in a way that to me feels as true and honest as anything ever put in cinema before. And what I mean by that is I grew up as a kid really enjoying John Wayne movies. And now that I'm older, I think about what those movies were, and I haven't gone back and revisited them, but I have an idea of what it was, and some of these things almost feel like propaganda for war, and this kind of thing about courage is everything, and bravery is everything, and war is about, fighting bad guys who are just bad. And why are they bad? I don't know. They're just bad because they want to kill us, and we're the good guys. And it's about victory and being a hero. And I feel that Band of Brothers explored the other territories that are clearly there in all conflict and all the in-betweens, the fear, what is right and what is wrong.
I couldn't agree more. I think that Band of Brothers, in a strange way, might even, motivate people who wouldn't necessarily think about joining the military, or were kind of on the fence about it, to see the other side, to see the camaraderie and the brothership that can be developed through action. So I definitely appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks a lot for calling, Jason. I know Ross Owen is chomping at the bit to get a question in as well.
Yeah, I do have a question. I have a question from Twitter, Eion. But before I ask that question, we were lucky enough to have Damian Lewis on the show recently. And Damian actually brought something up when he was on air about your good self. He mentioned something about during filming you disappeared and came back with a tan.
Disappeared and came back with a tan? I know what he's talking about. I had a fortunate schedule where, well, as you all know, Webster shows up with Easy Company in France, and he was with another battalion, I don't know, maybe it was in the same battalion, but certainly another company before that. And so the first 2 episodes, well, no, I did appear in the first episode, Webster did, but he wasn't really supposed to be in it. And then during Bastogne, of course, Webster's in the hospital recovering from gunshot wounds. So what that did is it made it so I, as the actor, I'm in 5 out of 10 episodes. And I was hired from the very first episode to the very last. So out of a 9-month shoot, I had roughly 4.5 months to go do whatever I wanted to do. And I was paid to do it. So I went and saw all of Europe. And so, maybe I had just come back from the south of France or something when he saw me with a tan. I'm not sure.
Well, a lot of the fans in the chat room were wondering about that, and they wanted us to bring it up. And we also have this question here from Twitter. The question is, what was the USO AFE tour of the Pacific like in 2006? You went there with a few Band of Brothers castmates and veterans?
Mm-hmm. I did 2 USO tours, one to the Middle East and one to the Pacific. The first one was to the Middle East. Before we left to the Middle East to do the very first Band of Brothers USO tour, there were maybe, I think, 6 of us actors that went. And I was guessing. I said, I'll go ahead and do this, because if we're being asked to go over there, I'd be happy to support. But I really wondered if the guys would think that we were. I was concerned that we wouldn't have a terrific reception, and that the soldiers would kind of have an apathetic thing towards us of fake actor Hollywood phony soldiers coming over here, and we're the real deal, and we're risking our life, and you guys pretended you were soldiers in a movie. Yeah, what do you want? And so I felt like we were going to be screening the episodes and then holding Q&As, and people are going to be half interested. Well, it was exactly the opposite. And they had been playing Band of Brothers on a continuous loop on the Armed Forces Entertainment Network. And everyone had seen it. Many people, not once, many people, I was astounded to hear, had seen it 40, 50 times. The entire 10-part miniseries.
Wow.
And I found that to be amazing. And how they felt about it. And I'm generally speaking, this is kind of like what most people felt, is that the series and the actors in it captured the truth about what it is to be in armed conflict. And they not only looked at it like you actually portrayed, and that's what the artist's journey is, right? To actually portray a real human experience where someone who has that experience can look at it and think, they got what it is, and they can go through their own journey and experience through watching it and remember what it is or feel what it is or understand that others have empathy or compassion for their situation. And these guys appreciated it so much. And I think it also boosted morale, because ever since World War II, the military has had, at least in the general public, an often negative connotation to it, with soldiers coming back from Vietnam and being spit upon, and the terrible situation so many veterans have in this country of just being which is truly horrendous, being thrown out onto the streets without proper health care, or especially mental health, and the suicide rate, and how many people have missing limbs and are unable to work, and terrible conditions for their acclimatization into society. And then the conflict at the time, it had just started in Afghanistan, and I think there was a freshness to it of let's go get Osama bin Laden, and let's go get these terrorists who took down the World Trade Center. But also there was still a murkiness that the soldiers understood. People perceived the military in different ways. Some people perceived it like, we're out defending our country, and others feel that it's an economic imperialist nation's foot soldiers doing the bidding of the corporate world, war on terror. And this series gave them an anchor, knowing that their parents and their families and their friends, who may not understand what they are going through, because all they, the beauty of a 10-part miniseries is you can watch that and get the experience of what it is. And they know that, and I think that was an honor for them, to feel that people could watch this and then identify with them through us and the characters we portrayed in Band of Brothers.
Wow, moving sentiments right there. That's awesome.